combination. A lot of these you've seen before, but if you've learned anything thus far, when we add tension and intention to our patterns, suddenly everything is a bit better, a bit harder in a good way. So we're going to start with the dead bug position. So come on back up. It's your moment, man. All right, so firstly, let's talk about the dead bug base position. I think it's important to make sure that you at home understand what we mean by stability of the segments as well as stability of the system. So let's go ahead, let's go 90, 90, 90 here. One of the big things is if you let your clients get very lax in the ankles, they're not going to have tension in the rest of the legs. But with the dorsiflexion, so active dorsiflexion now, is going to add. Again, adductors and glutes are going to co-contract so that we're able to not only keep the legs in this position, but we are creating proximal stability through the co-contraction of the hip muscles. From there, the hands go straight up in the air, and we want to make strong fists. We want a little bit of retraction, but we're not trying to over-retract, because if we trap the scats in total retraction, we're not going to be able to create any great movement. So a little bit of passive retraction here. Now, when we go to test things, I can test the limbs individually to see if there's stability. If John was not co-contracting pecs and lats, and he was just super loosey-goosey here, I'd hit him and he'd go flying. I do the same thing over here. If it wasn't glutes and adductors, the leg would flop. Now that was good. Here's the funny thing. When we hit someone or push someone, what we want to achieve more than anything is seeing that the entire system moves. So go ahead, get tight. It isn't just, oh, can you hold this? Because there's always going to be a little bit of lag time. He's going to feel how hard I push. But if I were to just push, I want to see that his whole system rolled over and not just the legs. Go ahead, bring it back. So one of the best ways of demonstrating this is if I push like this, in theory, nothing should happen because this is pulling, this is pushing. Awesome, he owns that. But if I push together, the whole system goes. So I want you guys to take that as the first step of the progression is, can your client, if they are going to roll over or fail the dead bug, does the entire system go, or is it a segment they can't stabilize? That's a lot of information for you to dictate in your programming. If I have him and I get 3 out of 4 holding down, legs are great, left shoulder is amazing, it's locked down, it doesn't move, but every time I hit this right arm, it flops and it breaks. Okay, that tells me, motor control-wise, something is going on here. So even this position is an amazing progression. Now, let's get into the movement of it. So lock it back in, breathe in, dial back the brace, 75%, right about there, good. So we're gonna go just right arm only, go ahead. Good, notice one of the things we like to think about is going from the fist to a spread hand or long fingers because you're leveraging the motor stimuli of the hands. Your hands are a major tactile organ, so too are your feet, so if you're doing the shoeless or you're doing something else. So we're going from a fist to a spread. So then we would go a couple reps on the right, a couple of reps on the left, and this is your single arm only. From there, we have single leg. Now with this, notice, let's actually just have you switch to that so they can see this crystal clear. Notice that John is kicking out, but he's not flopping the heel. Give me a lazy one where it just kind of rests on the ground. This is probably the most common mistake trainers make is they let this leg get out and they don't catch that now the heel is just sort of resting. We want really good active tension. You want to talk about strength in the hip flexors? That's an isometric contraction right there, keeping that heel off the ground. So go ahead, bring that back up. So then the next progression, so we would have done single, 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 single. Now we are going to hit that contralateral sling. Good. And I want you, if you can, so they can pick it up in the audio, let's hear John's breathing here. Notice that this is not just a physical experience, but there is a breathing pattern that we want to use. Go ahead, breathe nice and loud. Excellent. So notice that there is this active inhale, exhale that is in rhythm with the sequencing of the movement. That teaches us really that the breathing, to bring home Dave's point from earlier, that breathing and movement, they're not so different. They are meant to be together. So With the dead bug progression, one of the things we want to focus on is mastery of just the base position, mastery of each individual limb, and then the slinging or contralateral linking of right to left and left to right. So let's go ahead, and while we're on the contralateral, I'm actually going to jump ahead on the slide to the quadruped arm-leg opposites, otherwise known as the bird dog. We'll then do the T-spine rotation, then the side plank hip thrust. I just want to keep the contralateral theme going. So go ahead, flip over into your bird dog. Now, before you show us the amazing PPSC bird dog, I want you to show the people at home what I like to define as bird shit. Go ahead, give me your bird dog. Oh, yeah. Now, I can't hear you, I can't see what you're typing, but I have a feeling you notice the pillar is breaking. We're kicking up, the arm is floppy, we are not in any way proximally stable, so our distal mobility is impacted. So, once again, we will just talk about the base position. Go ahead, let's get your butt out of the camera now a little bit. Although, unless that's what they paid for. So, pecs, lats, glutes, adductors. Now, that's it. Guys, this is it. There are more clients on your roster right now that will benefit from holding this position with tension than you would like to know about. You've been trying all the crazy things to get their core to fire. If you get someone to really lock this in, breathe in big, brace, and own that. Once again, just like the dead bug, very basic position, very elementary, foundational position. Pillar is tight, everything is on in the hips, everything was on in the shoulder. Once again, we progress into a single arm is your first step. So let's go ahead and take the camera side. So we're going to take your right arm. I want you to pull it up into a fist right next to your jaw. Let's hold that base position right next to the jaw. Guys, I coach this just like I would coach somebody in combat. I want that hand nice and tight, shoulder is centrated. We're not necessarily tucking it over to the jaw like a boxer would, but what we are doing is loading this sling. I even coach, I want you to pull the elbow into position like a pull down so that this lat is locked and loaded. Now go ahead and press. Notice I say press. We can call this a punch, but to me a press takes away some of the velocity, some of the violent intent. And I want him to think about overhead pressing while pronating, hold that end range, pronating the fist down. So by getting this, if we think about the natural function of the humerus and the glenohumeral joint, he is going into overhead position with that pronation, that's internal rotation. It's how it is designed. Now, if there is someone at home and you're thinking, my clients can't go here, this isn't the end of the world. If there's some type of referred pain in the shoulder as a result of pronation, don't force it. The neutral position, or like in the lat stretch, a little bit of supination may be juicy enough for someone. But by and large, we want that pronation. So we would do 2 to 3 reps here on the right arm. Then he would move into the left arm. And again, we're looking at that right to left relationship. I've had more clients than I can count that one side of their body was amazing and the other side actually had a noticeable motor control deficit. So now we would go single leg. Now here's the big thing. John, once again, can you show me what most of Instagram does just with their butt and leg? The emphasis becomes up, the spine turns into a spoon, and the glutes just look better on camera. But what we do want is a brace. I want you to imagine you dip your big toe in paint. You are going to draw a straight line with your big toe in your shoe, and I want you to just extend the leg. Now from here, if we want glute stuff, all we have to do is lift 1 to 2 inches. Not 9 to 10, not 76. We just want 1 to 2 inches. Again, so drag that toe, fire, glute, that's exactly what we want. The glute will fire. If we're saying, I don't feel my glutes in a dead bug, or I'm sorry, a bird dog, all we have to do is double down on active dorsiflexion drag. 1 to 2 inch lift, glute, 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 amazing. So then we would again switch to this side, make sure that we're not seeing any sort of unilateral differences. And then similarly to the dead bug, we will now mix the contralateral sling. Boom. So go just a touch slower for the folks at home. What I want you to really focus on here, when you're doing this, is the stability of the right to left. What often happens when we get into a contralateral is we will dip into the arm side without knowing it. So it's that imaginary glass of water. I even like to take it a step back, is we're still gonna do contralateral, but lead with the leg, follow with the hand. Ready? Start the toe first. Now hand, boom. I want this to get there a little sooner because this is probably the part that most people want to kick up and do a bunch of goofy stuff. So if I start just a little bit, one more time, leg leads, hand follows, wow, that's a really powerful sling. I can literally feel everything in his back light up on that, so that's what we want. So the last one of the group is going to be crawling. Now, I know what you're thinking, crawling, what am I, a baby? Yeah. Let's regress things down to the first way we learned to navigate the world. Before we could stand as bipedals, we had to crawl. So go ahead back into your quadruped position. And then all we're going to do, which if we really want to be honest, this is sort of a six-head position, six-point position. We're going to float the knees. And then we are just going to move forward 2 steps, back 2 steps, forward 2 steps, to the right 1 step, to the left 1 step, 1 hop this time, crisscross. No? Anyway, you see it's getting late here in Orlando. So with that said, that is how we like to wrap up the bird dog. We don't want your bird dog to look like bird shit because we want your clients reaping the benefits of motor control through both the shoulder sling and the hip sling. For this next one, I would like to bring up our very own Clifton Harsky.